back to the channel, welcome to another video. It's that time of the week again, it's Premier League predictions time. The very long and tedious international break is finally over and done with, and the return of club football and Premier League football in particular is very close, tantalisingly close to resuming once again. And of course, we are entering into an extremely busy, more intensified but more exciting period of the season as we edge closer and closer to the festive period of the season. We've got a lot of games to get into though. We've got a lot of talk, a lot of analysis and a lot of predicting to do. But before we go any further in doing all of that, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you are new. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated, along with, of course, your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings. Get involved in that comment section. Use and abuse that section underneath, people, and talk to me. Where would a predictions video be without your predictions after all? That is what I want to know. But more importantly, I want to know what you guys think about each and every single game coming up this weekend. I'm sure it'll make for great and interesting reading. So please do leave your predictions down there. Right, that's out of the way and done with. Let's get into it. Let's get into the games, and we are starting off and kicking off with Saturday's lunchtime fixture. We are at the King Power Stadium for Leicester City against Chelsea, and I've gone with a 3-1 victory to the Blues. Now, the international break can be a bit of a momentum killer at certain stages for certain teams, and for Chelsea, they are going to be entering into a period of the season where they have some rather favourable fixtures, kicking off with the strugglers, relegation candidates, Steve Cooper's Leicester City. I think it's going to be a Cole Palmer masterclass. I think it's going to be a Chelsea masterclass. And although their defence is still not exactly watertight and still can be a bit unreliable at times, I guess you'd say, I still would back Chelsea to go and win this game. Coming off the back of that 1-1 draw with Arsenal before the international break, Chelsea's spirits are high, their optimism's high, they're playing some really good stuff right now. I'm going with the Blues to continue their good form and to start their favourable run with a big win over the Foxes. Next up, we're at the Emirates. It's Arsenal against Nottingham Forest, and I've gone with a 2-1 win to Arsenal. I'm looking at Arsenal to get back on track this weekend against Nottingham Forest. Now, this isn't to say that this is a foregone conclusion. We know that Nottingham Forest have had a brilliant start to the season and have only endured a really poor game by their start to the season standards against Newcastle last time out. That would have been a bitter pill to swallow. That would have been horrible to sit there and sit on for the last couple of weeks whilst the international break has been occurring. However, we know that Forest can be a decent side on their day. They know that they will pose some really big food for thought for Arsenal. But I think if Odegaard is back, I feel like another couple of weeks of getting his match fitness up to a standard. And I think that with Arsenal getting back some of their big players as well, I think with Arsenal getting back some of their players on a fitness basis as well, and I think with Arsenal already losing so much ground on the other two teams in Manchester City and Liverpool in terms of the title race, I feel like the bit will be between their teeth to go and get a win by any means necessary. Don't think it'll be a vintage Arsenal performance by any stretch of the imagination. We know that Nuno Espirito Santo's side are very good defensively this season and also can pack a punch up front, especially from a certain informed striker known as Chris Wood. So this is not going to be all Arsenal. This is not going to be Arsenal's game completely. They're not going to have total dominance on this, but I still would expect Arsenal, with the ambitions that they have this season and with the quality of player they have at their disposal, to get the job done by any means necessary. 2-1 Arsenal is what I have gone for in this game. Next up, Aston Villa taking on Crystal Palace at Villa Park, and I've gone with a 1-0 victory to the home side. Unai Emery's side finding it a little bit difficult now to balance Champions League and Premier League. They're starting off really well. They're still going pretty strong, but I think there are just certain cases where you look at their after Premier League performances, after they've been in a midweek Champions League clash, and you're starting to wonder whether or not maybe it's catching up with them a little bit. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I would expect them to go and beat a Crystal Palace side that aren't exactly in the best of form. They've been very underwhelming, I would say, so far this season, but there are signs that they are getting a few points on the board here and there. It's not been brilliant. It's not exactly been the evolution that we expected or anticipated from Crystal Palace from the end of last season, where they went on that incredible run of form towards the end of the last campaign. But, this is still going to be a difficult game for Villa nonetheless. That's why I'm not putting it as a high-scoring one. They actually played all right against Liverpool. They just couldn't take their chances. And the decision-making in the final third was poor as well. So there's a lot there for Villa to work on, and a lot there for Palace to even work on so far this season. So when these two teams clash, it's going to be an interesting battle. I've gone with a 1-0 win to Villa because I think they just have the quality, and especially in depth, over Crystal Palace to get the job done. But again, I'm not entirely confident on this prediction. Moving on though, and next we're coming to Bournemouth against Brighton, and I've gone with a goals galore type of game for this one. I've gone 3-2 to the Seagulls. Now, Brighton are enduring a brilliant start to the season. Fabian Herzula has really taken the Seagulls by storm. A few hiccups here and there, a few poor moments here and there, but for the most part, it's been a brilliant start to the season from the Seagulls. Bournemouth, I've had their moments. They've been brilliant in certain moments, and then they have flopped in others. Look at their last few results. Beating Manchester City, beating Arsenal, and then losing, I believe, to the likes of Leicester. And I know they lost before the international break, but the name escapes me now as to who they lost to. But it's still, when you look at the bigger picture, pretty decent from Bournemouth's point of view. They just need to stop with the inconsistencies. In this game, I'm expecting a game that could very much go under the radar as being extremely entertaining and very fun to watch. I think other big games are occurring this weekend that might just shift this game out of the microscope, out of the spotlight somewhat. But I'm anticipating a very exciting, very interesting game between these two sides. And that's why I've gone goals galore, because I feel like both teams play some nice and attractive football at times. Both teams like to play on the attacking front. It's all about whether or not both teams are going to take their chances or not. And I think Brighton will have more of that than what Bournemouth do, which is why I've gone 3-1 to Brighton. But this, hopefully, is going to be a goals galore scoreline regardless, but this could really be any kind of scoreline. I've gone Brighton to win, but I'm not entirely confident on that one. Next up, the Goodison Park awaits the arrival of Brentford as Everton play host to the Bees. Sean Dyche against Thomas Frank. I've gone 2-2. I've gone with a Desmond. I've gone with a Desmond on this one. I'm not entirely confident. And I know I say that a lot with these predictions, but this one I'm definitely not, because I know on their day Brentford can be unstoppable. They can be a real force to be reckoned with. But I also know on their day, Everton can be a thorn in the side of anyone. And I'm not just talking about attacking wise, whether it be the physical battle, whether it be the set piece battle. I'm talking about defensive structure. I'm talking about defensive structure where they don't give their opponents a sniff. Sorry, David. Shout out David Coote. No, forget that. But I know that both of these teams on their day can be a very, very difficult side to either break down or to stop going forward. I'm hoping we get them on a bad day where they're just so poor that we get a ton of goals, because I really don't care for this game and I don't have any personal feeling to it, even though it is a rival in Everton. But it's like, who cares? But yes, I'm hoping for a decent game here, and that's why I've gone 2-2. But yeah, this one could really go any which way. If I had to stick my neck out on the line and go for a winner, I'd go with Brentford, because I just think they have more going forward. But I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if Everton gets something from this game, which is why I have gone with 2-2, why I have gone for the points to be shared. Moving on to Craven Cottage, we have a battle between Fulham and Wolves going on for our Saturday afternoon viewing as well. Interesting game, this one. Wolves obviously picked up their first few points of the season, or first win of the season, shall we say, before the international break, and they've moved on since then, of course, as well. it's been pretty big for Wolves, that. Pretty big indeed for Wolves to pick up their first win for the international break. They picked up a few points here and there, but that might be the kickstart that they needed. And with a favourable fixture list coming up as well, it might be the kind of catalyst that, you know, Gary O'Neill and those Wolves supporters need to kind of really begin their season, 11 or so games into it. So, yeah, they'll be hoping that can obviously happen. But they'll be coming up against the Fulham side, who have had a very good start to the season, gone a little bit under the radar because other big teams have obviously taken that kind of spotlight and that attention. I don't think that will matter too much to Marco Silva's side. They can go about their business quietly. But the inclusion and the addition of Emile Smith-Rowe has been a beautiful thing to watch from a Fulham fan's point of view. Raul Jimenez has even been amongst the goals as well this season. So maybe the revival of him, and of course this will be against his former club in Wolves as well, so that could be an interesting narrative there. I've gone with Fulham to win by 2-1. I feel like the home advantage will play its part. It will play into Fulham's hands. The continuation of the progression of the likes of Emile Smith-Rowe as well, I think, will add more firepower into that final third for Fulham to get over the finish line and win. But obviously, like I say, again, Wolves are another one of those annoying sides where inconsistency doesn't really help the prediction of this, because on their day, Wolves can be solid. We've seen them a few times this season. They probably should have actually accumulated more points than what they have. There's been a few times this season where Wolves have played pretty well, but they just haven't got the result to show for it. And 9 times out of 10 is because they leak stupid chances, they leak stupid goals, they make defensive errors, or they just can't put the ball into the back of the net. This one, I feel like, could be more of the same. It's a good opportunity for Wolves to pick up another win under their belts, but it's also a very good opportunity for Fulham to continue their bright start to the season. We shall see how this plays out. Moving on to Sunday's games, and first up, we're at St Mary's for Southampton against the current Premier League leaders, 5 points clear of Liverpool. And I am anticipating that Liverpool at least will maintain that 5-point gap, because as you can see, I have gone with a 3-0 win to Arne Slot's men. Now, this is a banana skin. I will say this time and time again. I do not care how many times I will say this. These games are a banana skin. Southampton have been poor for the vast majority of the season. They've already toppled one Merseyside club. Could they do it again in more shocking circumstances? I'm hoping the international break's not a momentum killer. I'm hoping the international break was used wisely by Liverpool to get back to the drawing board, to obviously refresh, redeem themselves, and now it's like refocus, recharge, re-energize, because there's a massive opportunity here. Massive opportunity here that could be presented before Liverpool. Arsenal have a tricky game against Nottingham Forest. That's one that should not be taken for granted. Manchester City, who we'll get onto a little later, also have a very tricky game this weekend. We could be looking at a Liverpool team this weekend that could potentially go 8 points clear of Manchester City and as many as the rest of them. And that's the minimum of the rest of them. They could build up a big lead at the top of the table this weekend, Liverpool, if they play their cards right, if they don't take their eye off the ball, and if they take this seriously. Like I say, there's nothing worse than a team going into a game that they should be winning anyway, but thinking the game is won before a ball is even kicked. Liverpool should be winning this game. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But that's not to say this is going to be tricky. This is at St Mary's. This is away from home. Crowd's going to be up for it. It's going to be hostile. Liverpool will need to be focused, switched on from the start, and should not take this game for granted. I've gone 3-0 Liverpool because that's how it should be. And I'm hoping they are professional, play good football, and see this game out. That's how it should be. Moving on, we're at Kenilworth Road for Ipswich against Manchester United. And a lot of eyes are going to be on this one, of course. A lot of eyes are going to be on this one because of this is obviously the debut in the Premier League of one Ruben Amorim finally taking charge of Manchester United for his first game in charge of the Red Devils since being appointed head coach of Manchester United. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on this one. It's for your Sunday afternoon viewing, so there's going to be a lot of eyes on it already. It's going to be a lot of eyes from a lot of Manchester United fans that have got a lot of hope and excitement and optimism going into this new era that dawns at United. You'll also have a lot of rivals and a lot of neutrals that will also be very interested to see what the future may hold for Manchester United with a new head coach in charge. And I'm going to predict he's going for the dream perfect start to his United career. I've gone with a 2-0 win to Manchester United. Now, United were picking up a little bit of form before the international break. Ruben van Nistelrooy's interim coaching role was really rubbing off on some of those United players. They were playing a little better than what they were under Erik ten Hag. Not that it could have got any worse when all things considered, but they were playing better. They were actually starting to look more like a team, and they actually were picking up some decent points. So much so that they've helped keep the league very interesting because they're in like a block of teams in which 1 or 2 wins can drastically change the look of how the Premier League table looks right now. So United are in that kind of block, and of course they have a new manager at the helm. Now this isn't going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. We know that obviously with Ipswich being at home, the hostile atmosphere could create an interesting kind of factor to consider for those United players. That's going to make it interesting enough. But there's also the fact that, you know, Liam Delap's in pretty good goal scoring form. Ipswich are finding goals to come by that are pretty decent as well. They're just not seeing games out. And we already saw them earlier on in the season give Liverpool a good run for their money right at the beginning of the campaign. So this one isn't necessarily a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination. This will actually be an interesting welcome to the Premier League for Ruben Amorim, I'm sure. But it is one that I'm expecting and anticipating Manchester United to pass with flying colours, which is why I have gone with United to win and to also pick up a clean sheet. It's kind of going under the radar, but Andre Onana's actually been pretty decent so far this season, and I think he will obviously excel, as will a lot of other players, under the coaching of one Ruben Amorim. So I've gone 2-0 Manchester United. I think the star quality and the individual players that they have will get them across the finish line here, but I am interested to see what the initial idea is from Ruben Amorim. It's going to be a very interesting team selection as well, interesting formation, and even from the outside looking in, even as a rival, I am intrigued by this game, I have to admit, because I do kind of like Ruben Amorim, as I've already mentioned before. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed feelings one. I hope it crashes and burns though. I hope that he loses his first game. Great. Anyway, moving on. Monday night's game will see West Ham travel to Newcastle at St James's Park as the Magpies host the Hammers. And I've gone with a 3-1 win to Newcastle. Now, before the international break, Newcastle were picking up a very good bit of form, weren't they? They had a few decent results, a couple of very big wins against the likes of, you know, your Arsenals and the teams just escaped me now, but they picked up a few decent wins in the past few weeks. Picked up a few points as well. It's been looking much better in Tyneside these past several weeks. West Ham, underwhelming, probably regretting Julian Lopetegui's appointment. Maybe the grass isn't always greener on the other side from the tried, tested and albeit consistent David Moyes, but maybe things do have to move on eventually. So could be a bit of a slow burner, could be one of those that actually rectifies itself later on down the line, but there's no doubt about it. Lopetegui is in hot water, and it doesn't get any easier. Going away to Newcastle is going to be tough for this team, for him, and I imagine there may be a lot more questions asked of him if, of course, his West Ham team do not come out with a win in this one. I've gone 3-1 Newcastle. I think the home advantage will obviously play its part on a Monday night. I also think the form of these Newcastle players is also something to be considered. And I think a certain Alexander Isak will also have the bit between his teeth after what has happened to him over the international break. Seriously. What happened to that guy during the international break for his country was a madness. But yes, I think he'll have a bit between his teeth. I think he'll have a big say in this game. And I think Newcastle will come out with all 3 points. So that is something as well to be considered. And finally, in what I believe is the biggest game of this round of fixtures, the biggest highlight, the main event of this weekend's round of Premier League fixtures, we're at the Etihad for Manchester City against Tottenham. And as you can see, I've gone with a 2-2 draw. Now, this is more hope than a feeling, more of my gut than my head, I will admit. But I think there is sound reasoning. Spurs are obviously not going to change their style for anyone. Not going to change their style for anyone. And I think what we're going to see from Spurs is the same old, same old. It's how we are, mate. That kind of thing. City, we know that they're not going to change for anyone either. And we know that these two teams have played out brilliant Premier League clashes over the years. We know that Spurs have also been a bit of a bogey side for Manchester City. What I think about in this game is chaos. And I think in this situation, Spurs will thrive in that chaos. If Man City had Rodri, I'd more be leaning towards City. But I think the chaos and the lack of control of that chaos that we have seen from Manchester City over the past several weeks may suggest that Spurs can get something from this game. And I personally hope that does happen, because it could aid my team of Liverpool, which I've already mentioned earlier. I'm hoping and praying City drop points, but the international form of Erling Haaland, if he is to carry that over into the Premier League, if City are to actually provide for him, that could be extremely dangerous. But at the same time, we know that Spurs will take advantage of what has been a fragile City backline this season. Defensively, like I said earlier, they've lacked control. Defensively, they've leaked chances. Defensively, they've not been as watertight or as solid as they have been in previous seasons. Is this just their usual annual blip that they tend to go through? Or is this something a bit more serious, shall we say? And maybe with Rodri's injury, you can argue it's a bit more serious. I've gone 2-2. I'm looking forward to what should hopefully be an exciting end-to-end encounter. I think the way that Spurs play will play into City's hands, but I also think that with the way that City have been so far this season, unless they are to find a solution to their lack of control in games, I think that could play into Spurs' hands as well. And like I say, with the likes of Son, with the likes of Solanke, with Brennan Johnson, who is in very good form so far this season, it really could play into Spurs' hands to get at least something from this game. I'm hoping it does. Really do. I really hope that Spurs get something from this game in order to help Liverpool. But yes, very much interested to see all of this. Guardiola's got his work cut out for him. He needs to find a solution to these problems that City are having right now in terms of not taking their chances, in terms of lacking control in the midfield, in terms of a lack of stability in that defensive area. But it is definitely something that I'm sure he is not particularly phased about, and he's confident that he can find the solution. Until then, hopefully, the winless run of Manchester City continues in all competitions. Fingers crossed. Anyway, those are just my thoughts, comments, opinions, but most of all, predictions of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of all the Premier League games to come up this weekend? Another round of exciting and intriguing Premier League fixtures. What are your own thoughts, comments, opinions? feelings, and of course predictions, because I want to know your predictions, people. Let me know your predictions down below in the comments section. Get involved. Would love to hear from you all on that. Otherwise, thanks everyone so much for watching. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you are new or want to see more content like this. Both things always and be greatly appreciated. Thank you all so much for your continued or even brand new support as well. It is very much appreciated and absolutely awesome from you guys. So thank you all so much. It never, I don't think I say enough, but it's very much truly appreciated. So thank you all so much for that. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see you speak, well, Premier League predictions video, should I say. And I will see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your night. Speak to you all again very, very soon.